26 electric muscle built to do it all with ease.
You're looking at a contender for one of the most practical pickup trucks out there when it comes to things like fuel economy, towing capacity, cargo capacity, and surprise, it's an EV. So let's break it down. Let's find out why this is one of the most versatile pickup trucks on the market today. How about we start with a comparison to its gasoline Trail Boss brother. The EV crushes the older truck in many respects. Starting with the stats, the EV can tow up to 12,500 pounds, while the 6.2-liter V8 maxes out at 9,500 pounds. When it comes to torque, which is one of the bedrocks of pickup comparisons, the EV has 775 pound-feet, while the 6.2-liter V8 makes do with 460. The payload is also higher on the EV at 2,100 pounds compared to 2,000 pounds on the biggest V8. When it comes to range, the EV wins again, with GM estimating 478 miles per charge when compared to Motor Trend managing 395 miles on a full tank. Although I'm guessing in the winter, the EV would do a bit worse than the gas Trail Boss. The Silverado Trail Boss EV manages life with brute force. It's got a 205 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is one of the largest packs in production right now. To keep charge times reasonable, the top trim model gets a peak DC charging speed of 350 kilowatts, which is among the fastest available here in the US. In the real world, Motor Trend saw the Trail Boss add 133 miles of range in 15 minutes. For home charging, the Trail Boss comes standard with an 11.5 kilowatt onboard charger. Or you can check the option box for a 19.2 kilowatt charger to fill up that big battery. Where the Trail Boss EV really blows its gasoline competitors away is in its ability to power an entire home during an electrical outage. General Motors sells a connection kit that allows you to power your entire home, including central AC, with the Silverado EV for days at a time. At work sites, you'll have plenty of electricity for things like power-hungry table saws or even powering another EV. So for example, you've got a 240 outlet here and you've got two more 120 outlets right next to it. And if by some chance you need even more power, you've got another 120 household outlet in this absolutely huge frunk. As we continue our tour of the Trail Boss EV, let's take a look at the Multiflex midgate. For starters, let's say you've just got a shopping bag or something. You don't want to put the full tailgate down. Well, you can just go ahead and put just a little piece of it down. Of course, it does operate like a traditional tailgate as well. And you also have a very nice spot here where you can go ahead and just lift this up. So now if you've got some long boards or such, you don't need to worry about them flying out if you have some sort of unexpected traffic maneuver. Another nice thing about the flexibility of this gate is how nice and easy it is to get up into the bed. So you've got a button right here, bam, that comes down. And so of course, I can get up no problem. When needed, the rear passenger compartment can also be turned into part of the cargo bed by folding down the rear seats and then hitting a button to drop down a pass-through door. If you need even more space, the rear window also pops out and has a storage cubby so you can fully extend the bed into the rear passenger area. In fact, if you fold out the Multiflex midgate and put the load stop in place, you'll have almost 11 feet of storage space to work with. When it comes to fuel economy, GreenCars.com saw an estimated 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour during highway driving, which is a bit better than I would have guessed. Based on the average price of residential electricity and gas at the time of this recording, it would cost $93.84 to fill up the gas Silverado compared to $35.34 to fully charge the EV. As you would expect on a pickup of this size, the interior is massive. It starts with a large cubby bin right here in the middle. You've got another big storage area right here. You've got your cup holders. You've got your spot for wireless charging. You do have additional power ports, in this case USB-C. And as you can see, in this particular high trim model, you've got the glass sunroof, although it doesn't open and it doesn't have a sunshade. Now, because this pickup truck is so tall, don't expect to use the traditional glass mirror to see much. For example, my wife has a Mini. If she's close behind me, it totally disappears because of the height of this vehicle. But GM does have you covered. What most people are going to be doing more than likely is using the camera mirror feature, which gives you a nice wide field of view, more than you'd ever get with the traditional mirror, and it does go ahead and show everything. There's no real blind spots. The only thing to be aware of is things appear to be a little further away than they actually are, but you'll get used to that in a couple of days. One of the small things I appreciate is that the Silverado EV gives you a big, bright look at what your battery percentage is when you are getting out or getting into the car. Moving to the steering wheel, it's pretty traditional. It's nicely laid out. It starts with a ring up top here that's for Super Cruise. When you're in the highway in automated lane keep mode, this will light up green. If something goes wrong and you need to take control, it'll turn red, and it'll also give you additional alerts in the heads-up display and the dash. It has a traditional column shift here to go into park, drive, or reverse, or neutral. And then you've got your steering wheel controls for things like audio and regen. Now, one thing you don't have is a physical start button. When you get into the car, it just recognizes your key fob and starts right up. Now, when you get out of the car, if you want that reassurance that the truck is truly off, there is a off button on the touchscreen that you can press. When it comes to the infotainment system, the Silverado EV has everything folks have come to expect, including an excellent Chrome web browser. So if you wanted to go ahead and watch a little EV rider while you were charging, that'd be very simple to do. The home page is laid out like pretty much anything you've become used to. You can see it's got Google Assistant. It does have a full version of the Google Play Store, so you'll have no shortage of apps to download. For example, there's Prime Video. However, I've got to go ahead and point out, this does not have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Instead, it's got native Android Automotive, which is similar to Android Auto, but the difference is you've got to download the apps natively to the car itself. So just be aware of that. And if you're an Apple user, you really want to make sure every app that you count on is available on the Android side of the equation. Once you move beyond the infotainment system, one thing I do need to go ahead and ding this for is it does not have HD radio. Has satellite radio, has plenty of streaming options, but for a vehicle in this case that costs more than $90,000, HD radio is one of the things I expect. It's intuitive. You can see you've got all your AC controls front and center, plus you've got backup controls right under that, so if you don't want to mess around with the touch screen, you don't have to. In back is pretty much exactly what you expect on a big pickup truck, and that's, again, acres of room. This is a true 3-passenger rear seating compartment with plenty of leg room. And yes, you do have your fold down armrest with cup holders. You do have your USB-C ports. You've got 2 of them, rear air conditioning vents, and you do have rear heated seats as well. One thing you do not have is any kind of LED display for either games or adjusting the climate control. But other than that, you've got everything. The Silverado EV will likely surprise traditional pickup owners with how tight the turning radius is. That's thanks to its four-wheel steering, which also has a feature called Sidewinder mode that allows the EV to move diagonally by turning all four wheels in the same direction. As far as driving the Silverado EV goes, it's a very pleasant experience. First off, like every EV, it's super smooth. If you're coming from a gasoline or diesel pickup truck, you're going to be in for a very pleasant surprise. And like so many modern EVs, this one's also very plush. One thing I was wondering about is, given how heavy this EV is how it would feel out on the road. Would it feel like a tank? Well, yeah, of course it feels like a tank. It's a big old pickup truck. But it does an amazing job of hiding its weight and soaking up the bumps. Of course, GM Super Cruise is truly hands-free once you get on a mapped interstate. It will go ahead and allow you to be hands-free for 10, 20, even 50 miles at a time. I was using it yesterday and it worked exactly as expected. Like many of the automation systems, it did get tripped up when I switched highways. When I went from one interstate to the next, I had to go ahead and take back control. Given how roomy and comfortable the Silverado EV is, this would be a great cross-country machine. You know, now that Ford has discontinued its F-150 Lightning, I think the Silverado EV really has a chance to take the crown as America's best-selling EV pickup. I've also driven Rivian's pickup. I've also driven the Cybertruck, which are two other strong competitors. But I gotta say, if it was my money, I'd be much more likely to pick up one of these. And the reasons are pretty simple. In my mind, this is the most practical pickup of the bunch. When you look at towing capacity, when you look at range, when you look at charging capacity, on the interstate, doing the speed limit or a little above, the Silverado is nice and quiet. I'm happy to say I'm not hearing any wind noise. I'm not hearing any squeaks or rattles, which is always a good thing. I'd say this is the most practical EV pickup that's been developed to date. And I think for anyone that's doing local or regional towing, they're going to be very happy with this, because I would imagine for any kind of loads, say less than 6,000 pounds, you should be able to get a solid 200 miles of range on this without needing to stop to recharge. Now, if you do need to stop, the one problem with EVs is so many charging stations out there don't have pull-through charging. More of them do than we saw just 2 or 3 years ago, but there's still a lot of parts of the country where you're going to be forced to unhitch if you want to tow cross-country. So what I would say is, for those of you that want to go cross-country and tow a camper or even a boat, you need to know that is one of the downsides currently to having an EV. Now, if you're only going to do it once, maybe it's an adventure. I've towed in an EV and I've made it work, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is not as convenient as towing with a gasoline vehicle if you need to refuel en route. One thing I also want to mention before I forget, the Silverado does have true one-pedal driving, and the regen is very strong. So coming down a mountain, you're going to get a lot of energy back with this vehicle. So summing up the highway portion of this road test, the Silverado functions exactly as I would expect. I'm on a rough section of I-95 right now, and it's very smooth, all things considered. Now, the reality is I've barely scratched the surface of what this truck is capable of. But my partner, Dan Scanlon, he's had this for an entire week, and you'll find an extensive written road test on the web at evrider.tv, and he'll get into things that I didn't really touch upon, such as the difference in drive modes and many other things that I just didn't have time to touch upon in this video review. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode of EV Rider, I hope you'll give this video a like, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And for you EV Rider loyal viewers that watch almost immediately, there's also something called a hype button, which kind of turbocharges the chance of a video taken off. So consider that as well if you watch the video early enough to see the hype button. Thanks so much again for watching EV Rider, and we'll see you again soon with another EV road test.